We are going to be working on lesson 9.4 today. So we are going to be solving all of the different types of one-step equations. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So we're going to have to read the problem, decide what operation it was, and then do the inverse to find our answer. So, and remember, we want to do the same thing, the opposite. So if the problem tells us to add, then we'll want to subtract to undo it and do that to both sides. If the problem tells us to divide, we'll want to multiply and do that to both sides. So we're going to head into task 1 here. So task 1 tells us that the sum, we need to know, what does this word sum mean? So sum means that we need to add. So the answer when we add of the measures of two angles is shown. So we have the measure of angle X, and this angle is 67 degrees. And when we put those together, their sum is 180. So together, these equal 180 degrees. A straight line always is 180. So first let's figure out, what do we know? So we know the total is 180. We know that this right side is 67. And we know we're looking for this left side of X. We know together the left side and the right side equal 180 degrees. So let's look through and see which equation, so select the equations, so there might be more than one, that represent the relationship in this diagram. So we know our total is 180. So if I take 180 and add on X, and even if X only equals 1, that's going to be bigger than 67. So this is not making sense. Adding something on to 180 is going to give us something even bigger, and it's not going to be that straight line. So let's see, if I take 180, so here's the total, and I take away X, that will tell me that I'm left with 67. So that one sounds good. I take X, add on 67, I get 180, which is what we wrote down to start with. So if I take X and subtract 67, I should get something smaller, and that's not making sense. And if I take 180 and minus 67, I should be left with X. So we found the three fact families here. So another way we could write this is to say 67 plus X equals 180. So we can use that commutative property to do those addition problems. But when we subtract, we have to start with the total. So notice both of these are starting with this total here. If we come back to this one here, it wanted us to subtract, but it didn't start with the total. So that can't work for us. When we're subtracting, you have to start with the total, take away one of the pieces to find the missing piece. So now let's use this equation to evaluate and find the value of X. So we're going to use X plus 67 equals 180. So I want to cancel out this positive 67. So here's 0, here's 67. I need to get this back to 0, so it's like it doesn't exist. So I'm at positive 67. So to go backwards, we would have to take away 67. So do the opposite of positive 67 is to do negative 67. So these cancel out and equal 0. So we have to do the same thing on this other side here. Make sure we line our places up. So I'm going to be left with X equals, and I'm going to let you finish 180 minus 67. So it's important when we do this that we write it down on both sides to show that we're keeping it balanced. It can be really easy just to write it on one side, and then that's when we start making silly mistakes. So always write down and show, I'm taking it away from this side. Now I have to do the same thing over here. So go ahead and complete task 1. And when you're done, come back for task 2. Task 2 tells us that a store sells 3 cell phone cases for the price shown. So you can get 3 cases for the total of $50.25. write and solve an equation to find out how much money X the store charges for each case. So we want to know each case. So there are, just like before on task 1, there were several different equations we could use. So this one is asking us to use this particular situation. So something X equals something. So we're doing something here and it's got to equal the total. Well, we know the total is $50.25. And how many cell phone cases are we buying? 3 at the price of 1. So, right, we're wanting to figure out how much 1 is, but we're buying 3 equals $50.25. So we're going to use this and evaluate for X. So this is 3 times X. So the opposite of multiply is to divide by 3. So I'm going to write that on both sides, divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. How many X's? 1X. That's what I want on one side all by itself. It's just one of these X's. So now we're going to be left with X equals, so we need to do $50.25 divided by 3. So we should have something above the 5, the 0, then our decimal, something above the 2 and the 5 will be our value or our solution for X. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do that, and then you can complete task 2 and come right back when you are ready to do task 3. Hey, task 3 tells us that Paul has his laptop open at a 105-degree angle. So right now, his laptop looks like this, and that's 105 degrees. If he closes his laptop to 19 degrees or less, the laptop goes into sleep mode. So how many degrees X, so we're looking for this piece right here, does Paul need to close his laptop before it will go into sleep mode? So if he has it here, how much does he have to close it to get to here, which is 19 degrees before it will go to sleep? So let's think about which equation we can use to solve for this problem. So we know we're looking for X. So let's think about what is our total that he has it open to. We know our total is 105. We know that when I put 19 and X together, that equals 105. So I'm not doing 19 over and over again. So I'm not going to be multiplying or dividing. So we are adding X and 19 to equal 105, but we can also use that fact family to do things backwards. But we need to remember that our total is 105. So let's take a look here. So we can add X and 19 and equal 105. So that sounds good. Let's see if there's any others. So taking X minusing 19, that's not going to work. So remember when we minus, we want our total to be at the front of the problem to say, this is what we have. This is what we're taking away. So X is not the total. So it can't be at the front of that equation. 105 plus X equals 19. So that's not going to work when we're adding something on for the answer to be less. And here it's having us add 105 and 19. But that's going to if I open up the laptop to 105 degrees and then add 19 more on, that opened the laptop up bigger. We want to close the laptop. So it's backwards of what we're doing. So in this one, our equation is X plus 19 equals 105. So I want you to think of a different way we could write this same equation. So we could use the commutative property, and we could flip around our pieces and say 19 degrees and X degrees is 105. So I want you to see if you can write a subtraction equation that would equal the same thing. Let's go ahead and pause the video and come back when you're ready to see if you wrote down a correct subtraction equation. So we can take our total, we can minus one of the pieces, and that will equal 19. We can take our total, we can take away 19, and that will also equal x, which is what we're looking for. So 4 ways to do that same problem here. So for us, it asks us to use x plus 19. So here's x and 19. It equals our total of 105. So I want to get x by itself. So the inverse of positive 19 is to do negative 19. So 19 minus 19 ends up canceling out to 0. So this is gone. So I just am left with an x. So I need to do the same thing to the other side. So x equals, I'll let you go ahead and figure that out. Be sure to think about how you need to borrow across those numbers. So go ahead and complete task 3 and then come back when you are ready to do our last task, number 4. Hey, number 4 tells us that this picture shows the flat. So here's flat and the angled positions. An artist likes her tablet in when drawing. So she either likes it to be flat or she likes it at this 42 degrees behind the tablet. The flat viewing angle is 180 degrees. We've learned, right? A straight line, 180 degrees. So if she raises it up 42 degrees in the back, it wants to know what is this viewing angle going to be. So it was here at 180 degrees. She lifted it up 42. So what is her view from the front? So let's see which equation might help us find this. So we know, again, remember this is our total. We're taking this piece and this piece and we're putting them together. So I'm hearing that when I add these two pieces, it equals 180. So just because we're adding doesn't mean that that's what they chose to do. We might add, they might do the opposite and subtract. So let's see which one they chose to use for this problem. So let's see, we're taking 42, adding on x equals the total. So that sounds pretty good. This one, they have 42 and they're taking away x. So remember, when we're taking away something, we want our total at the front. This one does not take away from the total. It takes away from one of the pieces. Here we have 180 and we're adding on x. So that's going to make it even bigger than what it is. So that's not going to work. And this one is taking x and minusing 42. So again, it subtracts, but it doesn't start with the total. So that doesn't work either. So this problem that they're choosing to use is 42 plus x equals 180. So we could write a subtraction problem and say 180 minus 42 equals x. And the total minus the piece can tell us what's missing. So it's going to have us use 42 plus x equals 180. So we want to get this x all by itself. So I notice this 42 doesn't have any symbol in front of it. That means it's positive. We have 42. How can I get rid of that? So I can minus 42, and we want to do that to both sides. So 42 minus 42 cancels out. So all I'm left with is x equals, and I'll let you solve that. You'll need to borrow and then go ahead and complete task 4. And that is everything for our tasks today. If you need any help with any of those, please let me know.